Well, hello everyone. I'm back again, Dean here, continuing on my series of how to be a C# developer, starting at the very fundamentals, moving all the way through to being quite a good developer at the end of the day. Should be capable of most things. Okay, so today we're going to be looking at database systems, and in specific, we're going to be using Microsoft SQL Server for our own projects. There are two versions that's available for you to use for free. I will explain the differences later, but I recommend you use the Express version. So if we start with the download, so I've just gone to Google here, and I'm just going to type in, let's say, install SQL Server. All right, and it should be one of our top hits. Okay, you can look all here. Yeah, there we go. SQL Server downloads Microsoft. Get started with Microsoft SQL Server downloads. So let's go to that one. We'll click on that. Just take us to Microsoft. Okay, and there we have it. And it gives us some versions we can download. But if you come a little bit further down here, we can see or download a free specialized edition. This is what I was referring to a few moments back. So if you, once you're up and running and you want to start using a database and so forth, but you're not really interested in dealing with small clients, you're just dealing with large clients that require huge databases. Maybe you've got a Fortune 500 company as a client or something, or you're going to work for them at a stage or something. I would recommend then that you get this developer version. All right, it's a very full-featured version of SQL Server, but it's completely free to you as a developer for development purposes. You may not write something and then give somebody a copy of this developer version of SQL Server. That is illegal. Okay. If you do want to give somebody a version of SQL Server, then you must give them the Express version. All right, that's the one we're going to be working with, and the one that I think makes actually most sense for any small projects from maybe one developer type thing all the way through to maybe a small team for writing software for a small company. I've been running a SQL Express edition for about the last 10 years, doing thousands of transactions per day into a particular table, and it's still running 10 years later. So SQL Express is very, very capable. Okay, so like I said, that's where we're going to concentrating on today. So we say download now, and it should start the download for us. Okay, SSEI Express, so we say yes. And it'll start doing that download for us. Okay, I think it's done already. So let's see. Okay, yes. All right, so it's down, and we can run it. Windows should ask us. Here we go. Is it allowed to run this application? SQL Server 2019. Say yes. Okay, and we can minimize Firefox here. And the application, well, firstly the download gets done, and then the actual installation part starts being done. But okay, so what it's going to ask us initially is what type of installation do we want? Okay, basic, custom, or download media. Now, download media is basically the same as basic, okay? But what download media does is allows you to download ISO files and so forth, so that you can do offline installations of SQL. If you use the basic one, then you have to be online. You have to have access to the internet. We're going to be using the basic one today, yeah, I would recommend that this is what you normally use, unless you're doing an installation by client that has no internet access, or for whatever reason it says you can't use the internet. It'll also make sure if you download the ISO, you don't always know if you got the very latest. Downloading over the internet, you got the latest. So all right, so we get you to Microsoft SQL Server license terms. So they ask you nicely if they can take full control of your home, and you obviously allow it and say accept. And all right, so it says it's going to be installing in a certain folder here. I wouldn't change that folder if I was you, unless you had a very specific reason, but all right, so we leave it at that. So we install, and it's going to start doing the download. It takes a few minutes. It's quite I can't remember the size of the download, but it does take a few minutes. And then after that, it starts doing the installation. And so I think let's leave it and let's see what happens.
Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride on a one-horse open sleigh. Oh, jingle bells, jingle bells.
Alright, and then the download itself is successful, and now it's going to start doing the installation. Alright, and there we have it. Initial installation is completed successfully. Okay, but we're not quite complete. We still need to do a customize and install Ssms. Now, Ssms is basically, you can think of it as the front end to SQL Server. SQL Server is basically just a service that runs in the back end, but you need to be able to communicate with it and talk with it and create tables and so forth. You can do it through a client such as Visual Studio itself. Alternatively, you can use SQL Server Management Services, which is a download for SQL, and then you can do all of that as well. In fact, that's how it used to work a few years ago, and now it's become a separate install. Okay, I think the first thing you can do is let's see if we can connect to the database. So we click on the Connect Now button, and it should be all fine and connect for us. It says yes, it's connected. So SQL is definitely up and running. Okay, then we can go to Customize. Okay, so just check for updates for us. There are none at this moment, so we just say next. Okay, here it's done some rule checks, and we've got a warning on the Windows Firewall one. Now, that's not a problem, don't worry at all. Everything is fine. All that really is doing is it's warning you that because of the fact that Windows Firewall could be running, by default, it will block access to a SQL Server. Those ports that are required to talk to a SQL Server are not open. I think it's 1433 if I remember correctly from some time ago. But so all you need to do, if you do ever need another computer to be able to connect to this machine and this instance of SQL Server, you're going to have to allow them access through the firewall to SQL Server. So that's all it's saying is, you know, SQL is not available to the outside world because it's currently behind a firewall. Okay, so next on that. All right, and this is telling us that, okay, so the installed instances is we've got SQL Express as an installed instance, and then it allows us to, you know, you can add another installation of SQL if you wanted to, or you can just edit the existing one. So let's say we want to edit or add features to an existing instance, so we select that and select the only option we have is the one we just installed, SQL Express. All right, so we go forward with that. At this point, okay, something that you could look at is, which is very nice, is SQL Server Replication. You can install that, read up on that. Very, very handy. Keep things sort of in sync and so across different databases. And then you've also got a link here for looking for reporting services. I think it's a 2017 release, but to the official one, for which you need a key, okay, to activate it. So in other words, it's not free, but they do give you one for free for 180 days if you want to try it out, you know, before you buy it. Otherwise, you know, you're stuck with maybe crystal reports from SAP and so forth instead of reporting services from SQL. So we're not going to install anything at this point. Okay. Validation errors on this page. All right, what's to continue? Select a feature to install. Oh well, okay, so okay, I'll select SQL replication engine, SQL Server replication. Doesn't want me to continue, so okay, I'll select it and install it. All right, and there it says that SQL Server Replication has been installed, and it's complete. So we close it, and we're back to this point. Now, okay, the next thing is to install SQL Server Management Server. Now, in the good old days, we used to have something we called SQL Damager, or sorry, SQL Manager, that would Enterprise Manager, that would give us a front end to our installation of SQL Server. So at the moment, for instance, on this computer, SQL is installed, but we will need some client to be able to talk to it, to create tables and do stuff with it. You could use Visual Studio for that, or you could use Microsoft's own tool, which they now give you, which used to be part of the install but is now a separate install, and that is this install SSMS. All right, which we are going to do, and it'll take us to the website where we can download it. Oh, I did a quick check for the disk size of Express, and it is limited to 10 gigabytes per database. I can't remember where I saw that now. I had it a few moments ago. But okay, so there's a few other limitations as well. Number of cores it can use. Yeah, here's 10 gigabytes. All right, so there's your 10 gigabytes. I think at a stage it used to be 2, so 10 is quite a bit better. Okay, so if we come back to our SQL Server Management Studio, not Server Studio, all right. Okay, and you can read here on what it is and what it does for you, but you basically just want to click on this link, download SQL Server Management Studio. All right, we'll do that download, and it's a 535 meg file, so it's going to take a few minutes. So we'll say save on that, and let's just monitor it. Okay, so that's going to take a while, so I'm going to leave that, and when it's finished, I'll be back. Okay, and the setup file has been downloaded for SSMS, and we'll double click on that and run that. Windows should ask us again, are we sure? Okay, so I can't. Did you now install it or what? Okay, so it wants me to do a restart. So, well, let's do that. Let's do a restart. All right, so we're back. Restarted. I'm not sure that restart was required because of SSMS. But some updates were installed on my computer while I was working, and it required to do a restart. So it's possible that it was this, but this didn't happen over the last few days when I did it. Maybe it's just a Windows update. But all right, so let's try again. So okay, we've already downloaded it. Okay, let's just go to my downloads. There it is. Okay, 535 meg download. Click on it. Okay, and this time we are ready to do an install. So let's just minimize Firefox in the background here. Okay, and it says click install to begin, and it's telling us the path it's going to install it to, and Studio version 18. All right, and we just say install, and it'll go ahead and start the installation for us. All right, and we are complete with the installation, and we can close that. So if we now come down here and do a search for SQL, it should find us, there we go, SQL Server Management Studio. All right, that's the one that you want to open, so let's click on that, and that'll actually then can allow us to connect to the local SQL server or alternate server, but obviously we're going to use it for our local testing. And yeah, I'll show you how to sign in and what's the next step. All right, and here we go, we're starting up, and it'll ask us now for our logins. Okay, so the first thing it asks you is the server type that you want to connect to, and in our case it is a database engine. All right, so that's normally what you're going to be connecting to in your work. Then the server name, okay, this first part before the slash, all right, that's just the name of my PC. Okay, it could be 127001 as well. And then SQL Express is the name of the instance. okay, because a SQL Server database or installation can have multiple database instances. Okay, not just one. You can have multiple instances, and this tells you what the name is. The default name with SQL Express is SQL Express, and with the full-blown SQL Server, I think it's MS SQL Server or something like that. Now the authentication, okay, we currently don't have any option other than signing in as the currently signed in user. All right, you have to give additional rights for someone to sign in using what is known as the SA password and so forth. But all right, let's just see if we can connect. So it should, I'm connecting as myself to my own machine, to my own server, and I'm obviously the administrator, and there is connected. All right. And if we look under databases here, there should be nothing at the moment, none of, at least of our own databases. But this is where we'll go ahead and we'll start creating databases and so forth. So what I was thinking is, I think to explain how a basic database works, especially a RDMS database, relational database management system, such as SQL Server. Let me just quickly add a shortcut here to my taskbar okay, so just pin that to taskbar. All right, so easy access to SQL from now on. Okay, so I think, yes, let's use a spreadsheet to explain the concepts of a database. Okay, so if I just quickly come out of the virtual machine here. All right. So I'm in Linux at the moment now, and we're looking at Libreoffice Calc, which is a spreadsheet program, equivalent of Excel. I've zoomed in ever so slightly just to make it easier for you guys to read. But let's assume that we want an application. It's basically an address book, all right, of people which purchase items from you. Let's say they are software programs, okay? So if we had to write this down on an Excel spreadsheet, for instance, we would write as, you might start in the top left-hand corner, but let's say we start on the second one, and we say the first column is the person's name, all right? The second column is the person's age, all right, and then the email, or the email address, and then just a contact number. There's the cell number. Let's just call it cell then. All right, so we've got these few things we want to know about our clients. Now, the clients, when they actually purchase one of our products, okay, a new row gets added underneath here. So in other words, our headings are name, age, email, and client. So in fact, let's make that a different color. Let's say that it is sort of a yellow with a background of sort of a bluish, I don't know, let's just choose one there. All right, so there's our table. All right, so let's say, for instance, you sell to a person. It is George, okay, Smith. All right, and for interest sake, you want to know their age. You like knowing the age of your game players or users of your software. So let's say that person is 36. They don't have an email address, and their cell number is that. Okay. But now there's also the question of, well, what did he buy? All right. Then you can add another column here and say software name. All right, expand that ever so slightly, say software name, and let's say, for instance, you wrote your own version of chess. All right, so let's say he bought chess. All right, and all right, a few days later, so we should have a date time here as well, when the person actually purchased the product, date stamp, okay, and then of course the price that they paid. All right, So these are also headers now, but you notice I haven't changed the colors like I did these yet. All right, so if we now add, and let's say this was on 21 July 2020 or 2021, all right, and the price that person paid was 50, whatever your denomination is, 50 Rand, $50, 50 whatever. All right, so now on the next day, okay, we got Stephen Smith. All right, that's George's brother. All right, he also came in. Did I say Svens? Stephen. All right, so Stephen Smith came in. He's George's younger brother. He's 34. All right, he does have an email address, ssmith@place.com. all right, okay, so we want to expand this a little bit so we can read it better. All right, so he picks up as an email address, but okay, I don't like the fact that he highlights that, but interesting. All right, and his cell number is whatever, and he also bought chess. Okay, but you've got two versions of chess. You've got just normal chess, and then the good old, like in the good old days, we had something called battle chess. All right, so he's got his own version of battle chess he wrote. So George just bought normal chess, all right, and Stephen bought battle chess. And Stephen bought it on the next day, so it's 22 July, 2021. And battle chess is a little bit more work went into that, so that's 65 Rand, dollars, whatever the case may be. And so you can go on down with this, okay, but now there's a few little things. All right, so firstly, we want each one of these records to be identified uniquely in some way. All right, so you get what they call natural keys and surrogate keys, okay? And this is what we're going to discuss now. So a natural key would be, for instance, someone's name and surname, all right? Their ID number, or their social security number. That's a natural key, okay? Which should be unique, okay? But it might not be unique. I mean, like for instance, in South Africa, an ID number, you can't really rely on that, People have the same ID numbers and there's fraud, etc. You can't rely on that. So those are natural keys, okay? Keys that you can make up from the data itself. So, like I say, Stephen Smith is a person's name. Well, what happens if Stephen Smith comes and buys something again? Well, then it's no longer unique, because there's now two Stephen Smiths in our spreadsheet. So which one is which one? Okay, so what we do is we give it a surrogate key, all right? And there's different ones. Some people rely on GUIDs, and you also got GUIDs that, GUIDs are basically randomly generated, but you've got GUIDs that are guaranteed to be consecutive upon each other. That's sometimes used in a database. But what's mostly used is just an incrementing number, okay, an integer. All right. So now I'm going to say, so George Smith is 1. All right. We always start at 1. So the first record is 1. The second record is 2. If we add another record, it's 3, and then 4, and so we continue into the millions. All right, as many as what we want. All right, but just so that you're aware of something, I would have liked this A, B, C, D, E. These column names. If those column names weren't A, B, C, D, but rather name, age, email, cell. All right. So then this row 1 would be an empty row, because the name and the age would be by B, C, D, E. So that would be an empty row. So in other words, our first entry would be on number 1, like it'll work in a real database. Okay. But because this isn't a database, this is a spreadsheet, we're trying to simulate something like a database. So we can't replace this A, B, C, D, E, okay, with name, age, email, and so forth. So we got to stick with our current situation. So, all right, so our first record is 1, our second record is 2. Now, this column, okay, like you see in the name, age, email, and cell column, and the software name, base, and price, and so forth, those columns, okay, are also called fields, all right, columns or fields. And this particular one, we want it to be a unique field, okay? So no one may ever use another number 1, only once. So the first record is 1, and no one else may ever be number 1, all right? So we call that a primary key that does not allow duplicates, okay? And normally, okay, this is open to discussion. Depends on your database and your particular circumstances, but people sort of standardize on naming this field, this column, just ID. Okay. Now, some people, like, let's say for instance this table name, this spreadsheet, okay, is, let's say, my friends. Okay. Then it'll be, some people will call it my friends underscore ID, or just my friends ID. Okay, now when you start getting to object relational mapping and so forth, ORMs, you'll start noticing that it's better just to stick with the word ID, and then say, for instance, friends ID when you refer to something called the foreign key, which you'll later do when you talk to other tables where the relational database mapping comes in. So we've got now actually another field here, all right, which was, let's just change it to the same colors. So that was yellow and that was blue. All right, so we've got ID, name, age, email, and cell. Okay, but I still haven't kept software name and date stamp and price as valid field names. Okay, so I haven't included them in this blue yellow field name thing that I got here. The reason for that is ultimately I don't want them inside here. I want them on a different spreadsheet. Okay, I'll explain to you why soon. All right, so let's just let's add a new spreadsheet. So we've added a second spreadsheet, and this spreadsheet is going to contain the names and prices of the games that we wrote. All right, so let's rename that spreadsheet from spreadsheet 2 to, let's call it games. All right, just games. All right, now games has also got an ID column, all right, which is an incrementing number. All right, and then we've got a field, for instance, called the game's name. All right, the price, and that's it. Okay, the name and the price. All right, and in here, okay, we'll also change the colors to be the same. So those are our column names, all right, and so ID will always be 1 for the first one. So let's say our first program we wrote was just called chess. All right, remember we already sold the chess, but it was called just chess, and the value is 50 units of Bitcoin or whatever you're using. All right. The second ID, all right, the second row, the second record, okay, is, let's say, for instance, is a game which is based on Monopoly. Well, there's a game called Mad as well, so this is, which is a version of Monopoly, but let's call ours Mad Monopoly, all right? And it was a simple game to write. Also, let's say it's worth 45 units, dollars, rands, whatever. And then we've got 3, which we know we've sold battle chess as well. So we've got to have battle chess in our inventory, okay, of games that we wrote. And the price for that is, let's say battle chess was a little bit more difficult. So that was 100. We want to sell it for 100. You could have, for instance, in your cost price, all right, what did you actually use to write the game, your computer time, your network time, your electricity, and all that sort of stuff. your offices, you know, these things cost money as well. So you can work out what your actual profits are. But let's say we're just going to keep it simple. Just say you sold it for 50 and, you know, that's the price. And then let's have another game in here, for instance, and let's say, hey, you were one of the guys that were lucky enough to have worked on Battlefield 3. The last good Battlefield, in my opinion. Let's say you wrote your own Battlefield version. Okay, and that was a little bit more difficult. We'll make that 150 units. All right. Don't relate this to a real life rand, you know, dollars for the game Battlefield 3. This is your own little version, and you decided to charge $150 for it. So you've got what you can call a little database table here. All right, so in a database you have a whole lot of tables. It's like in a spreadsheet you have a whole lot of worksheets. Okay, so we've created a worksheet, all right, and it's called games, and this is the games that we wrote. All right, so if we go back to our first worksheet, all right, you'll notice we don't need software name and price anymore. Okay. We can replace that. All right, so let's get rid of software name. And this is what I was saying just now. You know, call your things ID, but when you're referring to the ID column of a different table, all right, then put the name of that table in. So in our case, it is games. You could put an underscore, whatever, but let's say games ID. Okay. So now I know chess was ID 1 and battle chess was ID 3. Okay, let's go make sure about that. So chess was ID 1 and battle chess was ID 3. All right. And we don't have to put in here the price that they paid. Okay. You could, I mean, if you think about a bigger scenario where your prices change and so forth, but let's say your prices never change. So all you're saying here is that George Smith, all right, exists in your database, and his ID is 1, all right, and Stephen Smith also exists, and his ID is 2, and those are their ages and how to get hold of them. And then you've got things here like which games did they buy, all right. But the thing is now, based on what we've done here, is we can only buy a game once for George Smith. All right, George Smith cannot buy another game because we can't add George Smith again as with ID 1 to the. We can't say George Smith came again and bought a new game, okay? Because we're not allowed to have more than one copy of George Smith. So in other words, this table, okay, or this worksheet actually is just your clients. All right, it's not the actual sales, it's just the clients. All right, so let's rename this worksheet to clients. Okay, it'll make sense to you in a moment. And let's create a new worksheet, all right, called sales. All right, insert a new worksheet, and we'll just call it sales. All right. So we've got a, sorry, I want it to be the second. How do I move this? All right, so it's the second worksheet. So there's nothing in here at the moment. So we've got clients, we've got games, okay, and we've got sales. All right. Now we already know that all our tables start with an ID, a unique ID, okay. Now this is the sale. Now the sale is, okay, so who is the client ID? Okay, so it's George whoever, so it's a client ID. So what I'm saying is, remember, it's the name of the table and then ID. All right, so if we go to clients, it's the name of the table. Well, I said client, not clients, but okay, clients ID. So we're referring to the only person that can have the number 1, and that's George. Okay, so we know that when we go to sales, all right, so we must change this to clients ID just to keep it the same. Okay, so we've got our first sale, okay, was to our first client, all right, which is George Smith, okay, on a particular date and time, date time. Now this is where you can decide to actually put the particular price that the person paid, because the prices might change over time. But like I say, let's keep things simple. So, and that was, if we go to clients here, so we have 21 July is when this purchase was made. All right. Sorry. So if we go back to sales and we go to date time, we say that's 21 July. All right. We also have a second sale. All right. That's by client ID. If we go to clients, that was by his brother Stephen. So that is client ID 2. All right. So we can say client ID 2, all right, made a purchase, but not on the 21st, but on the 22nd. Okay. And so we got that recorded. So these can now be actually given, you know, first what do you call it? Like not first person, important signs of importance. Okay, by giving them actual column names and field names. Okay, so if we go to clients again, you'll notice we've got these important ones that we called here. Then on games ID, we no longer need this column. All right, because if we go to sales here, oh sorry, yeah, we need to add the games ID here. Games ID. All right, and the game that he bought, let's just make this also first class. All right, so the game that he bought was games ID 1. All right, so if we go look at clients, yes, he bought 1, and then his brother bought 3. Okay, so if you go to sales, it's got 1, and his brother bought 3. All right, and so if we go to clients, now we no longer need this column. All right, and then also the date stamp we no longer need. All right, so what you can see is actually this is a very clean table now, or a very clean worksheet that just contains information about our client. All right, then we have a table, all right, which talks about the product which we're selling. Okay, it's also a very clean table. It just has their unique IDs, but the names of the games and the price of the games. All right, then I think let's put that second on the list. Then last on the list we've got sales. All right, and sales, we've made 2 sales. Okay, they also have their own unique IDs. All tables will have unique IDs. All right, of the surrogate kind. And all right, so here we have client's ID. Now this is sort of where it's the client's name. Okay, so who did we sell to? So, well, if we look here, like let's see, on the 22nd of July, we sold to a client with ID 2. Okay, the game with ID 3. So if you go look at the game with ID 3, it's Battle Chess. And if you look at the sales, okay, client 2 is Stephen Smith. So based on the sales worksheet, okay, or table, we know that we sold, all right, to both the brothers on those dates, those 2 games, chess and battle chess. All right, and that's the beginnings of a database. All right, this you can save as is now and then transfer into a real database in SQL Server. Okay, so if we go to SQL, okay, and so we've logged into Management Studio, all right, and on databases, we right mouse click database, databases. All right, and we just say new database, and we decide what do we want to call our database. We never really, let's say if you had to save this spreadsheet, the file name, okay, could be your database name, for instance. So let's just give it a second here. Okay, and it's come up and it's now asking us, the first question is, what is the database name? So like I say, this is your file name, for instance, of the Excel spreadsheet. So let's just say it is my company. All right, it's my company. Yeah, my company. All right. And you could fiddle with the other stuff, but you don't really need to do anything. Just leave it as is. Just type in your database name and you say OK. You'll see it's now gone and created a database name or a database here with the name my company. If you don't see it appear here, you can just right mouse click on databases and go to refresh. All right. So now we've got this new entry here. So if we expand that, you'll notice that it's got also quite a few folders underneath it. But what we're interested in is tables. Okay. Now, there are no tables here as of yet that we added to the system. In other words, which are pertinent to our database called My Company. All right. So, but we know from our spreadsheet, okay, we want 3 tables: clients, games, and sales. All right. So let's start with clients. Okay. And so these are our column names: ID, name, age. Okay, I'm going to split name up into name and surname, just for interest sake. But okay, so it's ID, name, age, email, and cell. All right, so if we go back to SQL Server's Management Studio, so under tables, I'm going to say new table. All right, I want a new table. So we know our first column name must be called ID, and the data type has got to be some large integer. Okay, a lot of people just choose int. Fine. We're going to be using big int though. All right, a nice big number. All right, and we're going to then right mouse click on it and say that it is a set primary key. We're going to make it the primary key. Okay, and the moment we made it the primary key, it switched allow nulls to negative. Okay, we're not allowed to have nulls in this column, which makes full sense. You can't add a new row to the database with a column of ID having no value. All right, it's got to have a value. That is what the key is. The primary key is. May have no nulls in it, and it's got to contain a value which is unique amongst all other rows in the same table. Okay, and so we've got that down, but now we need to tell it that if we go to the right hand side, you'll see here's an identity column. If we click on that, drop that down, we've only got one option there at the moment, which is ID. That's fine. If we had more columns in our list here, we would have had more options there, but we only want to use ID because that's the only one that we're going to be using. So yeah, so like I was saying then, all right, and if we go ahead and we can start adding the other column names, you don't have to add all the data in one go. So you can say, for instance, all right, we've got a column called first name, and under that we've got okay, you can now immediately put in that value, or you can just go to the next row and say for instance surname, but it does kind of guide you. So if you just type first name, press enter, it'll take you to the next data type and so forth, or to the data type. Now you'll notice that it's picked up nchar10 as a default. We're going to be changing that to nvarchar. All right, you can read up on the difference between char and nchar and varchar and char, but let's just say that nchar can handle more different types of characters from different languages, and varchar is not fixed in size. So if you have, let's say for instance, we have a field called varchar and we say it is 1000 characters in length. But you only put one character in there at the end of the day when you're actually running your program. You've actually wasted 999 bytes of space. So with the nvarchar, it tries to take care of that for you. So all right, so first name is, let's say first name may be 20. You must have a name, you can't be null. Surname also, you must have a name, you can't be null. We'll make it also nvarchar 20. Okay, oops, I forgot the braces. Okay. And then we've got, for instance, an email address. which is of type also in varchar, but obviously email address is much longer than just a name, for instance. So we'll change that to in varchar, let's say 100. Let me just type email address properly here. Let's remove this, remove this capital M, lowercase m, okay, email address. And that's also, they have to have an email address, nulls are not allowed. All right, but let's say, for instance, we've got a cell phone number. Cell phone, all right, and that is allowed to be null. All right, some people might not have a cell number, but I mean, this is for purchasing our software of the internet, so everyone should have an email address, okay, but they might not have a cell phone, okay, for whatever reason. So let's say that's fine. They don't have to give us any information, but if they do give us a cell phone number, you would think, okay, it could be a number itself, but sometimes they have, like, you know, country codes, like plus inside of a number, a cell number, and so forth. So it's not only numbers, you know. So let's make that also in varchar, and let's just make this much shorter. Let's say 13 characters. Okay. And then after that, we can ask finally, let's say, for instance, for the person's age. For demographic reasons, we might want to know what age of people are playing which games and so forth. And this is going to be a number, all right? Now, age, it's not a very big number, okay? So we can change it to, let's say, for instance, to a small int or a tiny int. Let's go for a tiny int. Let's put in a tiny int, okay? And you can't not have an age, all right? So we're going to say we want to know your age if you've got an age, okay? And then that's this table done. So this is the clients table. So this is where we going to register everyone that's going to be purchasing software from us. So it hasn't got a name yet. The table hasn't got a name yet. It'll get, as soon as we ask save it, it's going to ask for a name. Now, just for okay, let's leave it at that. All right. So I say Control S, and it asks me for a name, and I'm going to say clients. Okay, this is another point of discussion: is do you name something client or clients? In other words, plural or singular. I find I'm not really sure which one I do most of the time. I think I'm actually usually do singular. But it really depends on which project I'm on and what the other people are doing. You know, me being, you know, most of my life I've been a contractor, and you know, everyone does things slightly differently. But you can choose plural or singular. There's pros and cons for both. I personally prefer singular, but okay, we're going to go for plurals this time. And all right, we say okay, and we've created the clients table. Now under tables here, it doesn't show it to you. All right, now remember, like I said, with the database, when you create it with a table, if it doesn't show you any table, right mouse click on it and say refresh. Okay, and there is gone and added your clients table. Okay, now we need another table, and that's going to be the actual games table. All right, the games that we're going to sell. All right, so we also need an ID. We've already decided that we're going to be using big ints. Okay, big int, and we're going to say that this is a primary key. It's the identity column. All right, so that means incrementing number, integer number. All right, and in here we've got, for instance, a name, which is a, let's say, in varchar. Okay, so it just took me a moment there just to think how long we should make this field there. So let's make this the name of the software that we're writing is an in varchar, meaning it can have special characters up to 100 characters in length. And of course, we can't write a game or piece of software that doesn't have a name. So null should not be allowed in this column. All right. Then we've got another column called price, for instance. All right. Now price. SQL's got a special data type for price, or for money, for numerics. So there we go, there's money, so you can select money. Now, I think that equates to decimal in C# if I remember correctly. But yeah, all right. So now, we come to a choice. Let's assume we feel nice and we want to give some software away for free, to a charity or whatever the case may be. And you could say, well, that means we should allow nulls in this field. No, I actually want to not allow a null, but I do want to allow a value of 0. So if the person says that the price was 0 that they sold it for, or if when we made our sale, then we know that we gave it away for free. But it does have an actual value, 0. 0 is a number. Null is nothing. It means no number, no nothing. All right, so we don't want a null here. We do actually want a number. Okay, and then all right, so we can save that, and so that then will be. So I forget, what did we call it here? Games. Okay, so all right, we create a new table and it's called games. So we've currently got two tables. Okay, you'll notice again it doesn't show it to us. Say tables, refresh, and we've got now 2 tables, clients and games. Okay, now we want our third table, which brings together the sale of games and the clients that purchase them. All right, and this is where referential integrity and so forth starts coming in. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to create our sales table, where we can start doing sales, and this is where referential integrity starts becoming an issue. And as in relational database management systems, things are related and they refer to each other, and this is where we're going to be looking at that now. So if we create another table, this is going to be our sales table. All right, so again it has an ID. All right, data type is going to be big int, and right mouse click, set primary, identity column, yes, ID. Okay, and then we want to now say we want to record a sale between, let's say for instance, a client, a client, all right, client, all right, and the purchasing of a particular game, all right, on a particular date. Okay, now the thing is, we're not going to make this a varchar where you're going to type the client's name in and say what game they bought. All right, we're actually going to say we want the ID of the client in the client's table to be put into this column. So this is another ID field, in other words. Okay, so it's ID. Okay, it's client ID. And remember, the original ID in the client table is created using a big int. So we do the same here. Okay, you cannot make a sale without selling to a client, so you're not allowed nulls. Okay, game as well, you can't make a sale without actually selling a game, so no nulls are not allowed for the game. Now the same applies to the game. All right, a game ID has to be created here, or referred to here. So in other words, the ID column in the game table. All right, so, and that will then also be a big int. Okay, so what we've basically done is, and then the date timestamp, that will be a date time. Okay, I can't remember this too. There was something about that. I think it's more accurate or less accurate. I can't remember, but okay, we use date time, and you can't sell it on a date that doesn't exist, so that may also not be null. Okay, for now, I'm going to say that's that for the sales table. So I'm going to say Control S, and we save it as the sales table. All right, and we say OK on that. And if we refresh here, you'll notice we now have 3 tables. Okay, client, games, and sales. But like I said, referential integrity is an issue. Okay, and this is what's very important in using a feature that must be used in your databases. There's many rules and so forth to learn about how to use an RDBMS properly, linking records correctly together, normalization, they call it, and so forth, and foreign keys and things like that. But all right, so we're going to touch a bit on that now. So what I want to enforce on the sales table is when we try and write a record to the sales table, okay, you're not allowed to write a record for a client that doesn't exist in a game that doesn't actually exist. Okay, so if I go to clients here and I say edit top 200 rows, okay, so I'm going to try and add a new sale here. Sorry, that I go to clients, it should be sales, my mistake. Alright, so sales, so we say edit top 200 rows. So we can add a new row here. Remember, we don't have to put anything into ID, it'll do it for us automatically because it's an identity. Okay, and so client ID is, well, I don't know, client 1, alright. Our first client bought our second game that we ever wrote from us, and the date he bought it was on 21 July, let's say July 2021, okay. Now, he said, well, great, okay, but the thing is, who is client ID 1? And what is game ID 2? Those records don't exist, okay? Those clients don't exist, and the game doesn't exist, all right? So we should not be allowed to add a sale into our sales database, a table, unless that it is actually a real sale to a client that actually exists, okay? So what we can go ahead and do then is, let's say, let's delete this, okay? Sure you want to delete it? Yes, so we get rid of that row. All right, now we go back to the edit mode for the sales table, and we want to now enforce these rules on the client ID and the game ID, that they may be sold, or something may be sold if they don't exist. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to relationships, okay, and we'll say add new, and it's going to give us a name. SQL Server's come up with a name for us, okay. Typically, I mean, you can change that. So let's say, for instance, it's a relationship between sales and clients. Okay, so this is a relationship between sales and clients. So if we come here to the tables and column specifications, we click there, and then here on these three little dots there. All right, so now it says, okay, so we want a relationship, all right, between our current table, which is sales, all right, and the field is client ID, and the relationship we want it with is the client's table and the field ID. Well, why did I make a mistake here? Sorry, client ID. Did I not click properly? All right. Now you can add more fields as well if there were more relations between these two tables, but there aren't. So what we're doing now is we're saying that we cannot have in our sales table a client added to it if it doesn't actually exist in the clients table. Okay. So that's a relationship we've created. Now we want to create another relationship which does the same thing, but for the game. So we can't sell a game that doesn't actually exist. So we say add again. All right, and this sales here, we can change to sales and games. Oops, fames. Games, okay. And tables and column specifications, we come back here again, we say sales, all right. And this time we want the game ID, not the client ID, the game ID, okay. And sorry, and yes, and we got to change this to the games and ID column. All right, so what we're saying is that a sale of a game may not take place unless that game exists in the games table. Okay, this is relationships. All right, and okay, so let's say that's okay on that, and control S that. Okay, so it's busy saving. Okay, do you want to do this? Yes. You want to continue? Yes. If you already had data in your database, data in your tables, you may have had a problem at this point. But since we've got no data, everything is okay. It didn't give us any errors or anything. So if we now come to sales again, all right, let's go again and say add 200 rows. All right, add top 200. Okay, so we start with client ID 1. Which worked just now. Game ID was 2, which worked just now, and we put in a date of 21 July or June or whatever, July 2021, let's say. All right, if we go to the next row, all right, it's giving us an error. Okay, so is the insert statement conflicted with the foreign key constraint sales clients? Okay, and it's saying that the reason for it is that the client that we're trying to add to the sales table doesn't exist in the clients table. All right, so we can't save this row. All right, so we got to escape, cancel it. So what we first have to do is we got to go to clients and actually add a client. All right, so let's say edit top 200 rows as well. All right, and let's say we add a client, and the names were George, and surname was Smith, and he had no email address, and his cell phone was whatever the case may be, and his age was, I can't remember, something like 36. All right, what did I type here? Myth. Where's Smith in here? Smith. Okay, so now if I click on the record below it, okay, he's giving me an error, and it says cannot insert the value null into column email address. So remember what I said, we are selling to people that's on the internet. They will obviously have an email address. So we can't even save this record into the database if we don't supply all the records that says they may not be null. Like email address may not be null. So we say, okay, so it's j at place.com. All right, so that's his email address. And if we now click below, all right, goes through and we've added it. Okay, it started on ID 2. I don't know why it does this. It never used to do this. It seems to go 2, 4, 8, but once I start doing it by hand, it does 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm not quite sure what's happening with that. So that's probably some new feature or something. All right, so what this now is, we've got one member in our database. Okay, but remember there should be 2. Okay, there's also Stephen. All right, so again, we click on the second row here and we add Stephen and tab, and we say Smith. And tab, and he's also got a email address at place.com, and he's got maybe he's got no number. Okay, and his age, okay, well I said his age, sorry, his age is supposed to be younger. I think it's like 33, but this 46 is wrong. That's something like 36 is what I had just now. All right, so there you've got 2 records now. So you notice he went from 2 to 4. All right, but when you add this by hand or through your program that you're going to write, it should just add 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, and that's it now. So we've added all the clients to our system. So what we've basically gone and done is, or from the worksheet, we've what was on our worksheet for clients, we've now put into a real database. Okay. Now games, same problem. Okay. Now games, you can also go and you can say edit top 200 rows. All right, and start typing them in. Or you can do it like I was saying. You can do this by hand. Okay. And this is where you start learning about something called CRUD. All right, it's the CRUD methods of relational database management systems. Now, CRUD stands for create, read, update, and delete. Those refers to basically your 4 main SQL statements that you'll use for general database query, updating of data, and that type of stuff. So it's called CRUD. All right. What I'm going to do is I'm going to open a new window, okay, a new query with current connection. All right, so that'll open a blank page for me. All right, but I can just say, I can just start talking to the database. He knows that this thing is connected to my database, okay, to my company database. So if you want to do a CRUD install, okay, a creation of a record using CRUD, and not like we did it just now by clicking here, just adding them. Okay, let's close that actually. And so what we want to do is we want to add to this table, all right, but not by cheating and writing it in here. Okay, we're going to do it by hand. So in order to do that, you've got to say insert, All right. You got to give it a schema. Okay. Well, you don't have to do this, but it's good practice too. And those square brackets means I can use names that might be reserved by SQL Server itself. Like insert, for instance, there's an example. Insert is actually a SQL Server name, but I might want to call one of my tables insert. All right, and this is how you'll get around that problem. So, okay, so what we want to do is we want to insert into games. All right, then you've got to specify a list of the field names that you want to insert to, which was, what was it, name and price, if I remember correctly. You don't have to do ID, remember, ID gets generated for you. So it's name and price. All right, and you can immediately see it's complaining about name here. Name is in blue there, because that's a reserved word to SQL. So again, yeah, so it is name and price, so you put that in square brackets. Price you don't have to, but let's do everything the same. All right, and then you say values, okay, and what values do you actually want to put into this database table, and end the line with a semicolon. So in values here, so we want to put in two strings, one string and one number. So strings, some of you will be aware in some languages, for instance, use double quotes. All right, some use single quotes, and SQL Server is one of them. We use single quotes when we're referring to a string. You see it's red there now. Okay, maybe just make this a bit bigger. Okay, so it's red. All right, so, and then after that, comma, and then the price for this game is, let's say, 50. All right, and this is our first game, so it was chess. All right, and it will automatically get a number added to it, okay, for the ID. All right, so if we actually do that, so let's say, so remember there's the CRUD, and there's also the create, the edit, the create, and then the read. All right, so let's just quickly read. You do a read with a select, let's say, what do we have? Okay, so we have name, comma, price. Okay, and in front here we want to say ID, so you can see what the ID is as well. Okay, try and keep the case the same, better. Okay, and then it's from, and then it is DBO, oops, DBO dot, we want to insert into games. Okay, so we want to do a select from games. I just want to show you that there's nothing in there at the moment. So what we could have done, okay, is gone to games and said again, edit top 200 rows like we did with clients, and well, there's nothing in there at the moment, so we can add it. Or you could say select top 1000. Now you can't edit them, but you can just select them, and it'll do a select top 1000, and there's no records, there's nothing found. Okay, but you can see the SQL that is generated. Okay, you'll notice that certain reserved words in SQL are in capitals. Okay, this is idiomatic of SQL and T-SQL and P-SQL, and that is to have their reserved names written in capitals. Okay, so I showed you that you could try and edit top 200, which will show you which records already exist. You can also right mouse click and say edit, select top 1000, and it brought nothing back. Versus I typed it out myself here. Okay, select the ID, the name, and the price from that database. I've selected only that line. All right, and then you can come click here on execute, or press F5, or Control E does the same thing. All right, then it should come back and find absolutely no data. All right, because we haven't put anything in yet. All right, but here we are going to put something in. We're saying insert into the games database, okay, for the fields called name and price, the values of chess and 50. All right, so we select just that one. Well, you could select both in this case, it doesn't really matter because the one will execute after the other. But let's say, so we select only one at a time. So we we insert it, so it says, okay, one row has been affected. One row is now inserted in here. So if we now look here, you should get a result of one row back. Okay, and there it is, 1 and 50. Now let's say we want to add another game. So let's say it was we had that Mad Monopoly or something. All right, so we call it Mad Monopoly. All right, and that is, let's say 40 units, credits or whatever. All right, so all we've really done is we've changed the name and we've changed the price. Okay, well, we haven't changed the ID. Okay, we're not even adding the ID. Okay, but let's run this again and let's say insert on that. All right, and if we come and have a look, now we should have 2 records, and there they go, and they're 1 and 2. All right, ID 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so it'll continue. And so we can put in all our games. And so like I say, we had Battle Chess, I think, as well. Battle Chess. All right, and its price was a little bit on the higher side. If I remember, it was 100 or something. All right, so let's run just that line. Okay, so we've done an insert again, and then let's read it. Okay, and now we've got 3 records. All right, so the nice thing is we have now got data in the tables, clients and games. So we can now start doing sales. All right, so what I mean is, okay, you can do, there's a little cheat. Instead of typing out all the field names, you can just say star. All right, and that means show me all the fields, okay, for whatever you want to look at. So if I want to look at games, for instance, all right, and I can go and I'll say, okay, now this is how you read from the database again. Like I said, is with that select. So I'm going to say select. I'm not going to give it field names. I'm just going to say select star from, and then my database name. All right. So I've got a double from here. All right. So select star from my database name, and that's games. So it lists games again. But let's do games and also clients. All right. So if we just do clients, we should get our 2. So what we can also do is run both of these at the same time. Remember, they got to end with semicolons, all right? The rows. So now we run both, and it gives us the results of both. Okay. And you can look at both of them at the same time and so forth, and you can sort them. Like maybe you want to sort your clients or your games, for instance, by name, okay, or price, for instance. But let's say you want to sort it by name alphabetically. So when you say select star from clients, okay, so if we want to sort it ascending or descending, you've got to say on which column you want to do your sort. So remember, these are your column names up top here. We're currently going to be looking at clients. We're going to be doing a sort on that. So you've got to say on which field. Now, I know I said star here, that means show me all fields, but that's got nothing to do with what fields you can use anywhere else here. And one of the other fields that exists in the table clients is, for instance, I never added, did I add age to clients? I think I did add age to clients. But let's say, for instance, okay, we want to look at age. Okay, so we say select all fields from clients, order by age, all right, in descending order. All right, and if we do that, okay, you'll notice, so it's first George, then Stephen. Okay, now if we change it from ascending to descending, from descending to ascending, okay, so it was 36, 33, now it's going to be 33, 36. 33, 36. So say you can sort your result. You can sort on multiple fields, etc. Okay, and so that's showing you from CRUD how to do a create and how to do a read. All right. Now let's create also a new record in our games database. Okay. So we'll do it the easy way. All right, so we already know. So if I just say, if it doesn't really matter here, if I just look at these two, so these are the IDs I've got, 1, 2, 3, and 2, 4. Okay, so we want to make a sale happen between George, whose ID is 2, okay, purchasing the chess game whose ID is 1. Okay, so if we go to sales, all right, oops, so we just say edit top 200 rows, so we can actually, we don't have to type in any inserts or anything. Okay, so the client ID I said is George, which is 2. The game's ID is chess, which is 1. All right, and the day on which he purchased this was 21 July, I think it was. That's 2020, for instance. Okay, and if we just press enter or click on the next row, it will accept that. So we've now got a sale. All right, so if we go and look at this point here, and let me just get rid of this. Okay, let's add another table to this here. Let's say I want to show all my list of games, my list of clients, and my list of sales, all on the same screen. Okay, there we go. So there's your clients, your games, your clients, and your sales. All right. One more thing I can quickly show you here is, let's say, for instance, like in the case of, like, let's say like games is a quick one. So that is name and price. So we say, okay, name, comma, price. All right. But now, for whatever reason, so if I just do that, okay, it'll show us name and price. Well, I can put ID as well. Okay, so it's the exact same as star then. It's just more typing that I have to do than just say star. But you'll notice that that is the exact same as if you said star. All right. But let's say I want to, for instance, make a change to the cost of one of my games. All right. Let's say the chess game. Let's say let's say it's actually $55. Okay, so I've made a mistake and I've been selling to everyone for $55. Well, not made a mistake, but everyone's been buying for $50, but I don't want to sell them at $50 anymore. I now want to sell them at $55. All right. So what I want to do is I want to change this number. Okay. Now this number comes from the games database. All right. So you can go and say in games, let's say edit top 200 rows, and you can just come and type in your new value. All right. But let's do it by hand. All right. So we do, remember CRUD. So now we're doing an update. All right. So we say update. All right. And then it's the name of the database that we want to actually update, which is games. All right. And then we say set, and then the field name, which happens to be price. All right. Not the field, yeah, the field name price. And then we equal it to a new value. Now remember, this is not a number. Sorry, this is not a string. This is a number. If it was a string, you would have to do, something inside there. But it's a number. So end your line with a semicolon and then put in the new price, 55. Okay. So if I just say, let's copy this out, stick it down here. All right. So if I say, show me the games, you'll notice that the price is 50. Now I'll run an update. Oh, no, hang on. That's the other important thing. All right. I'm now going to set all prices to 55. I don't want to set all prices to 55. I only want to set the prices where the ID is 1. Or for instance, the name is chess. But typically that's why you have these IDs, is those are the ones that you use when you refer to records. So I want to say, so set the price to 55 where, okay, and then our ID field is equal to 1. All right, so it'll only set that one record. So if we run that, it'll tell us one row affected. And if we come now and we look at the games again, we'll notice that our new cost is 55, not 50. All right, so that's the create up the CRUD part. We haven't done the delete part yet. Okay. Now, delete is also very dangerous. In all these things, you should be aware of this where clause. You must use where wherever you can. All right. Where's your friend? But let's say, for instance, now, let's say I added yet another sale. All right, to my my games here. So let's do it the easy way again. Edit 200. All right, and let's say the client ID is 1, and the game he bought was 1, and it was bought on 2020. What does it say? 22 July 2020. Okay. My company, what am I adding? Okay, so it's gone games ID, client, oh sorry, because they worked in, they didn't count 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, when I added them, because I didn't do them by hand. Okay, so what I'm saying is, all right, so this record number 3, which we just added, we just made a sale. All right, we just made a sale to the person with ID 4, okay, and we just sold them the game with ID 1. All right, now let's go look at our SQL statements here again. So if we do a select star from sales, I already had it just somewhere, yeah, over here. All right, so if we do a select star from sales, we've now got 2 sales. All right, but let's say somebody came back to us, this guy, this sale with ID 3 in it. All right, okay, that person came back and they wanted to cancel their sale. They made a mistake and they gave the money back, and we said, oh, okay, fine, and we allow it. All right, so we actually don't want this record to exist anymore. And in a real live production system, you might still want to keep it, just put it inactive or whatever, but let's say we want to delete it. So what you do is, all right, so you say delete from, okay, and then you've got to do your the name of your database, dbo.sales. Okay, so we want to delete from sales. Now this, remember, where, else it's going to delete everything. Okay, where ID equals 3, semicolon at the end. All right, so if we just have a look again at sales, okay, so we've got 2 sales in there with IDs 1 and 3. All right, so if we delete from sales, we should now have only one. Only one. All right. So we've actually looked at create by doing an insert, reading by doing a select, updating by doing an update, and deleting by doing delete. All right. There are other commands. There's many other things that you can do with SQL as well. You can write stored procedures. It's like functions and so forth in Visual Basic. In C#. You can write functions and store and methods and so forth in SQL Server itself, which you can call from your application. That's sometimes normally done because of speed reasons and so forth. Sometimes to do certain things is faster on the server than transferring a lot of data over your network to your computer and then doing, some calculation. It's easier just to keep it on the server, but it's a way up. You decide. But that's basically it for your CRUD functions, and this is probably then the end of me actually showing you everything about, well, not everything, but a whole lot about the SQL Server Management Studio. There is other things like, for instance, the SQL query profiler. You know, it tells you how your queries, how fast they are running and things. You'll get to that one day. But this is the basics that you're going to be doing. The next step after this is where you actually start using it and calling it from an application, which is what we're going to do next. We're going to now actually, from a C# application, start using and calling SQL Server tables and so forth. And all right, guys, thanks a lot as per usual. Thanks for listening. And if you got any comments, let me know. And thanks a lot. Chat to you next time. See you, man. Goodbye.